of Ask the Coach, our Oceana Special, as it were. So I'm not expecting many people from the UK here because it is 4:30 in the morning. But thank you to my wonderful guests. I'm going to get them to introduce themselves in a moment. If you don't know me, I'm Angela Cripps, the MD of the Recruiting Gym. And this is Ask the Coach, our fortnightly webinar where you get to ask questions of the coach. We've got pre-asked questions already, things they're getting asked all the time. But if there is something that you would like to add, please put it in the comments. If you're over on LinkedIn, I will be going backwards and forwards and checking on that as well. I can't expect anyone else to be doing that for me at 4:30 in the morning. So just bear with us. But the link is there to Crowdcast. So if you've not joined us before, do come over and join us on Crowdcast. Get in the chat there. And you'll also then get notified whenever there is another Ask the Coach in 2 weeks' time. So thank you. Erin, I can't see a mute on yours now. Are you with us, Erin? I'm coming to you and just seeing if I can hear you. That I'm guessing that's a no. We're coming back to Erin another time. So let's start off with someone that has been on quite a few of our webinars, first of all. So if I can come to Nicole. Nicole, if you'd like to give a short introduction of yourself and what you do.
Hi, everyone. Nicole. I'm really excited, Angela, to be on one of these in Australia. Means I'm not up at some ridiculous hour like you are right now. But Nicole Clarke, co-founder of Shazami, passionate about all things recruitment, marketing and technology, and love helping people be more successful in this space. And great to be joined by everyone who's here.
And I've noticed our mental health and wellbeing coach Claire is there. She's an Aussie, she's here in the UK, and she normally gets up at 5, so she's got up a little early for us here. So thank you for joining us, Claire. Anyone else, let us know where you're signing in from. Nina, I'm coming to you next. If you could introduce yourself, please.
Thank you very much. First time here. I'm very excited to be here. My name's Nina Matson-Bone. I am, until Christmas, I was the president and chair of the RCSA and managing director of Beaumont People, and now I work with lots of recruitment firms, helping them to grow their businesses through their people, and I do that with consulting and speaking and masterclasses.
Thank you for that. So yeah, the skill, the knowledge, the experience that we've got on here, and Evan will be back. She's logging out, she's coming back in. We're going to keep trying do it from there. Hopefully she'll be there. She's been trying hard to get in, but we're not having much luck at the moment, but we can see her at least. Maybe she could do sign language for us. Denise, this was your idea. We did the Africa special back in February, I think it was, and you contacted me afterwards because you'd been on our podcast week, Superheroes, a podcast with Vanessa Rath, and you said, why don't you do this one? And I must admit, we've done the Americas, we've done the Middle East, we've done the Far East, we've done Europe, we've done Africa. So actually, you were going to be next. It was just the time zone thing that stopped me. So Denise, thank you for suggesting that. If you could introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Angela. Look, why should all the other geographies have fun, right? We are always the stepchild in the end, so we were like, all right, let's come a little to the side. Thanks so much for having me on here. For those that don't know me, my name is Denise Pereira. My pronouns are she and her. I am the founder of a talent sourcing bespoke consultancy here in Melbourne. It's called Kaleidosource, where I work with startups and scale-ups around business needs for sourcing training via workshops, fractional sourcing and recruitment support. Should you not have the budget or the bandwidth around bringing someone on full-time. And there are a couple of other options that we also provide. I always say I'm an introvert by nature, extrovert by choice. When I'm not working, I love spending time with my fiance and my 2 Aussie bulldogs. And I also feel like my spirit animal is a panda. So that should tell you a little about me, how I am outside of work.
I got hooked on TikTok yesterday on a panda thread. So that was it. The algorithm was just giving me a panda thread. But this one was them not hurting themselves, but actually being quite risque. And they were falling off of everything and knocking each other over. Oh, love it. Go find the pandas on TikTok. You'll enjoy this. Erin, we're hoping there's no mute on your phone. Can you hear it? You can hear us. Can we hear you? No. Can you go to your settings and change the microphone? Sometimes You've got the wheel bottom right. Sometimes Crowdcast will pick a microphone of yours that's from an old laptop or something. I don't know how it does it, but you'll go on there. I'm going to go on mine now just to have a look. And my microphones, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I seriously don't have 8 microphones attached to this laptop. So it could have picked a weird one. That's one thing we have seen before. But if there is something else there, give it a go. You are the 4th question, so we're going to keep going. But did anyone here know Erin very well? Nicole, can you give her a little intro? That would be nice. Not done this before. You got on mute though.
Better unmute as well. Hello. So Erin, I don't know heaps about you, but I know you through People In and is a superstar award-winning recruiter, but also business owner. She is located in Australia, as we all know, works very closely with a lot of, and is a client as well. So we're very excited, but a wealth of knowledge as far as recruitment and anything to do with legalities and things are concerned in this industry, and very well respected.
Yeah. So let's give Erin a little bit of love while we work that out. So Erin, then we've got everyone's links here in the chat. If you're over on LinkedIn, obviously you can find them there. But obviously a fellow of the RCSA. I do not know what GAICD is, and I should have done my research. So there we go. Author of Get the Job You Really Want, industry leader for the RCSA 2022, people to people for the last 9 years. So there you go. We've got a lot of experience there. I'm just looking. Oh, there we go. We found it. Australian Institute of Company Directors. Okay, it's probably why I didn't know. Do it from there. But Find the Job You Love. What a fabulous title for a book. So thank you for that, Erin. And we're determined. We're recruiters. We don't stop. We will keep trying to get you on. Right, we are going to crack on with our questions. So our first one that's up, we've got Denise. I'm going to put you on screen, focus you. I'll stop sharing as well so that we can switch that out, and let's crack on with that first question. Yep. So we have a wealth of knowledge that can be shared in the recruitment industry. Just on here, over 100 years of experience at least. Which networking support groups would you recommend people join if their focus is the Oceania countries? Okay.
I love this question. Thanks, Angela. I think I'll talk about my own experience having lived in Australia for the past 13 years. The beauty of what we do here, specifically in Australia and New Zealand, is there's heaps of things for us to pick and choose from. So apologies if I say a few names that I take and some that I miss out. So I'm going to start off with, we've got a lot of talent meetups in almost every major city here in Australia. So we've got one of our oldest Melbourne meetups, which has been running for about, I think, 9 years now. So it's now rebranded to the Melbourne Talent Meetup. We've got one, actually 2 happening in Sydney. We have them in Adelaide, Brisbane, Perth. On top of that, when they also have amazing speakers and amazing venues, etc., they also have social drinks meetup on top of that as well. I don't know if anyone knows, but Eden Haddock, shout out to him. He started what we call the Rubber Band Network. And I believe this started right when COVID had hit and so many of us in recruitment were impacted the most. And he kind of brought the entire community and network together around just, having someone to talk to, going through the same pains. And now this has turned into such a massive community on Facebook. So it doesn't matter what background, white collar, blue collar, what sort of roles, what industries, whether you're people and culture, whether you're a coordinator, whether you're a recruiter, sourcer, everybody is in there. So that's a massive sort of community he's built up. He also runs a podcast. So we have Recruiter Chinwag, we have Real Recruiters. Shout out to Lauren and Craig Watson, who run Tarpod. That was actually one of the first recruitment podcasts in Australia. It gave people an avenue to tap into certain topics that either we were not well versed about, and also people that we could actually start connecting with. We also have what we call the Talent Acquisition Down Under Slack channel. And we've got various recruiters from, again, all sorts of companies, all shapes and sizes in there, so much IP. And we all just feed off one another when we are looking for just, good sort of information instead of going outside of that channel. Again, we've got Recruitment Consulting and Staffing Association across ANZ, which is RCSA. So people looking to upskill themselves in the staffing market, that's an amazing place to go to. We have people like Andrea Kirby, who brought RecFest from the UK into Australia about 8-9 years ago. She's running Talent Table right now, which is a form of different sort of roundtables. You have different sort of leaders coming in, talking on different topics. There's forums. She brought in Talent Palooza, which she runs every year as well. We have ATC events that's been running for, I think, anywhere between 8 to 10 years, and that's run by Joe Voland. It typically runs at Luna Park every year in Sydney, and I think they're bringing it back to Melbourne this year. We have Striving by Laura Johnson, and those are all around group and peer-to-peer mentoring on different sort of topics around mental well-being, burnout, coaching, any sort of topic that you can think of, employer branding, etc. It's all in there. And last but not least, we also have Sourcing Summit by Phil Tussing. He's been running this show for almost 10 years now, not just locally in Australia, but globally as well. In fact, there's one happening in Germany as we speak. So we're actually very, very spoiled for choice from a community perspective. There's a lot for us to pick and choose from, whether we want to do face-to-face, whether we want to do webinars, or whether we want to do one-on-ones. And I'm sure there's quite a few that I may have missed, but these are probably the most common ones that I've been a part of, that people I know in the community speak very, very highly of as well. And I'd love to hear from the other ladies in case I've missed out on anything here.
Definitely, definitely. And what I would like to say, if you've got a podcast, because it seems like there's an opportunity for everyone to get involved, and there's no need for you to be on your own. If you're a solopreneur, or if you're thinking of moving to Australia or opening up and working there, there is such a thriving network already, which is why we wanted to get that out there. So if you have got a podcast, I know you have, please get it in the chat. This video gets downloaded and put in the course. This is number 83. So there's 82 sessions of these with all resources and information for everyone, answering questions from people that know. So therefore, yeah, feel free to add those in. I'm sticking mine in first. So Hiring Happenings with a Pestle Twist is our podcast this year that we're focusing on. So we pick the letter of Pestle every month. So we've just done technological for April. We're doing UK the first 6 months and then global for the next 6 months. So if you know anyone that's technological, legislative or environmental in the world, let me know, because I've got to fill those positions. Erin, I don't know if you've unmuted because you've got something to say. Have you got your AirPods? It's still not working for you, is it? I don't know what else we can do. Can I just double check? You are on Chrome, aren't you? You're not on Safari. Yeah, this is very weird. Normally it's the other way around, that you can't hear us and I go, turn your speakers on. Someone's muted your laptop, whatever, and then you, oh yeah, I can hear, but we're not sure on that one. Yeah, so Craig, you mentioned there as well. I've got another story on Craig. I met him in a castle in the Cotswolds here in the UK 7 years ago. Gosh, yeah, next month. So, but that's for another time. Pick up from those. Have we got any others to add that Denise didn't cover? Networking groups or places to connect? Yeah, Nicole?
I was just thinking, yeah, there's still quite a few others, specifically for the recruitment industry, with NPA, which is a great group, and also APSCO. So we do have quite a few other membership groups. There's quite a lot in this region, actually. Nina, I'm not sure, you would probably know of any others.
Yeah, they're the two that I was thinking of. And the other, I think you mentioned Pete Watson, Denise, but the other podcast that they started, the Recruiter's Wagon, which is quite an interesting one for people that are interested in non-drinking events and podcasts and things. So because obviously historically there's quite a social element to recruiters events, and I think so Mint Recruitment and a number of his colleagues, they've started a piece around some non-drinking events as well, and some non-drinking podcasts, which I think is quite an interesting take for our industry as well.
That is such a good thing, isn't it? Well, I heard last week, I was at an event, and there is now a pub that is all non-alcoholic. So it looks like a pub, sounds like a pub. all the drinks are there, but every single one of them is non-alcoholic. And there's so many people that don't drink now in our industry by choice. And I think that's fantastic. There's something like that. We did find in the green room that actually there is a networking group that we should set up. So let us know if you think this is a good idea. Karaoke one. Because we're all singers. We all love singing. We're happy to get up there. Nicole's the only one that's a real singer who can sing and really belt out a tune. The rest of us are just happy to be there. So maybe that's one for the future. Right, Nina, I'm going to leave you there. Sorry, Nicole, I'm going to leave you there and come to our second question. So how would you describe tech innovation and adoption in Australia or Oceania in comparison to other areas in the world? Because you do travel a lot.
Yeah, I'm lucky enough to have clients across the world now. So I'm talking to people day in and day out from the recruitment space, from like literally around the globe, in all sorts of weird and wonderful places that I often didn't even know existed. No, Claire, I'm not singing. Wrong forum. So it's actually quite interesting when we look across the world and we're talking to people, there is no doubt that the UK is spearheading and driving tech innovation, highly competitive, and people, the majority are trying to grasp tech and bring it into their businesses. New Zealand, we've always found to be quite forward thinking it's often used as a little incubator to trial out different technologies because it can be more controlled in a slightly smaller environment. And Australia is getting there, like they're pretty good. Certainly way surpassing the USA. A lot of people we've done it this way for 15, 20, 30, 50 years. Why should we change it? It's not broken. But as we know, really at the end of the day, not only is recruitment marketing now, you also need to be a technologist because it is very complex. And what I always try to sort of implore people to do when they're looking at tech is not just buy shiny new toys, because it's very easy to go to a show and see something that looks really cool. You buy it and then it never gets implemented and it never gets used properly. That often it can cause more problems for your business because it just takes your eye off the ball. Really be asking the tech companies that you partner with currently today, who they integrate with, what are the new things they're seeing. Importantly, every piece of tech that you purchase should integrate into your business like it's one. So you don't want them all siloed where nothing's talking to each other to pass that relevant data that can help you make smart decisions. So what I'm seeing a lot in the UK, really, where they're being very smart about what tech they're using. The current economic environment, which there's some pieces in here on, is making people consolidate their tech stacks and start to take account of, well, what's creating ROI and what can we track. So I think in Australia, we've still got a long way to go. People should be looking at a new bit of tech regularly just to keep ahead of what's going on, especially with AI. Everyone's talking about AI. It still needs a human element, and you need to be smart about how you bring it in your business. But it's exciting if you can get the right tools that can make a big difference to your success.
Yeah, and certainly these events that we're just talking about, those networking events, if you're going to, we've got two big ones here in the UK that happen in March and October that I know you come across for as well, our recruitment agency expos, and you've got 150 suppliers that are there, all different things, but there's so much tech in recruitment. You need to keep abreast of it because there could be something there that could make a huge difference to your business. And a lot of the time, if we're heads down, working, which we know we are as recruiters, then unfortunately you could miss out on something. And they're looking at AI taking about, I think the stats at the moment are 35% of the administrative, repetitive tasks that actually there's no need for a recruiter to be doing. It can be an automated or an AI thing. I'm going to try again, Erin. Can you hear it? Can we hear you? Yes.
Oh, you can. Excellent. Wonderful. Well, I can now see none of you, but that is absolutely fine. It's like the ultimate torture being on mute on this. So, so it's lovely to be back.
Taking the voice away from you, you're right. That and you might have noticed that we're all women. I do promote female voices a lot here on the recruiting gym. I haven't done the analysis on Meet the Expert. That's our monthly free training session. But on Ask the Coach, I have. We've got 125 different coaches that have done the 83 sessions, and 62% of them are women. So nearly 2/3. Actually, I haven't updated the stats today. So you guys are going to help me to do that as well, to move that up. So we want to hear your voice, Erin. We'll be coming to you in a moment.
Sure, no
to
worries.
pick up from there. Thank you for that. Right, let's get Nina on. Pop her across. I've got my done answering. If you can't be here for the whole thing, this is recorded. You get a chance to come back, and each of the questions are then time stamped. If you go to the question box here, this is what I love about Crowdcast. So as long as I've clicked the button to put it on the screen and then click the done answering, then you'll be able to go straight to the question that you want answered. So do have a look at some of the others that are in here as well. Okay, let's come to, oh, sorry, no, Erin, this was Erin's question. See, I'm messing it up now, trying to do two things at once and talk. So the fact that we can actually hear you, Erin, let's get you on there. So our question here then is, what's the current recruitment environment in your view? This is your opinion, you're working in it. So for the Oceania regions, what would you say is the current recruitment environment?
Yeah, happy to answer that. And I might just, if it's okay, take a quick step back and introduce myself, because I think Nicole might have said people in, but it's actually people to people that I'm managing director for in Victoria and in Front Sports. And I'm also Next Gen Board Director for RCSA. So it's a pleasure to be here, and particularly lovely to be here with the other guests, and to have Nina on here as well, who I know very well. Look, in terms of the current recruitment environment, it is quite mixed at the moment. We're definitely seeing recruitment processes push out a little bit. So we're seeing clients move from a confident, yes, we need to hire, this is urgent, what's the update, let's go type attitude to, yes, we do want to hire, but they have to be really strong. Let me get back to you. So there's a little bit more hesitation. And I think that's because of the economic uncertainty that we're seeing. So processes are taking a little bit longer on the perm side. And on the temp side, we are seeing a little bit of an uptick on the temp side. And I think that's where we see the hesitation come in on hiring permanently in an economic climate like this. And we start to see temp rise a little bit. Having said that, it's still a state of nearly 50-year unemployment low. So the unemployment rate went up to 4.1% last month, but it's not that there's no job growth. There is job growth. It's just that more people are coming into the market than we actually have jobs for. So students coming in, we've got higher migration, and other people coming off the sidelines because of the cost of living pressures are now wanting to work. So that's all having an effect on the environment. What I would say to recruiters there is, don't lose heart. It's actually quite a normal recruitment environment. We came off some very high highs in 22, and it's quite a normal recruitment environment. And so we just need to change the way we do things, not necessarily be pausing or worried. It's just different tactics that we need to use.
There's so many similarities to our market here. We've just last week announced that we're now out of recession. Thank goodness for that. So yeah, on Friday that came out. So we're seeing that let's go and the let's move now, because we felt it for this last quarter. There's definitely been some positivity. But when we're looking at the numbers, we're actually very similar last year to 2019. It's just because 2022 was just so phenomenal for everyone, but because we'd had a year, 2 years of it all getting built up and not many people moving. And of course, then difficulty in finding the skill levels as well of people. So it's like a perfect storm, wasn't it, Erin?
It was, and I think we just have to remind ourselves that job vacancies and demand is still up on pre-COVID levels. It is still a better market than pre-COVID. We just had that kind of COVID recovery in 22, which really it felt good, right? There was a lot of growth and there was a lot of opportunity, and it was a very different recruiting style. So it is unfamiliar to people that started maybe in 22 or came into recruitment around that time, where it was much more of a job feel type market. Whereas here, it really is that full 360 role, building those relationships, getting the work on, nurturing candidates, being able to represent, advocate for your candidates. It's the full package, and I really love that because it's the full consulting package. You really get to use your consulting skills. It's less transactional and it requires a lot more skills. So I personally find it a bit more exciting, but it is a little bit more challenging at the same time.
Yes, yeah. So that 360 role, you're right. There were so many jobs to fill. We had a lot of delivery teams, a lot of candidate focused teams, a lot of people that have come into the industry in the last 3-4 years that didn't have to do BD in any way, shape, or form. So if they're quite new to the market, then that was a bit of a shock at the end of last year. All of a sudden, you've got to go out and find more clients, and it was like, okay, not used to this. Which leads me lovely onto the next question. So if you don't mind, I think that's a perfect segue to pick up with Nina on how recruiters can build relationships with clients and potential clients in a softening market. So yeah, we're sort of soft landing at the moment. There's you've got to go and work for it, is what we're probably seeing, isn't it? So how can they do that?
Yeah, that's exactly right. What I'm seeing, and with the clients I'm talking to, is that, and to Erin's point, it's not, the market we're in is not unusual. It's just unusual to those that haven't worked in it before, which is actually a lot of recruiters who joined our industry perhaps in the kind of rush that was post-COVID. So we have a lot of new recruiters that haven't been in the industry before, that joined and knew nothing other than jobs falling into their lap. So it's akin to, and if you are any of those new recruiters that have only joined the industry in the last 2 years, you're suddenly finding yourself having to run a marathon, never having to, do any running before. So it does feel very different now. But what you're working in now is much more normal. And you do have to build relationships with clients in a much different way to when you started. But to Erin's point, and I agree with you, Erin, entirely, that's actually much more rewarding in the long term. But like any relationship, people get scared because they're told it's sales or they're told it's business development. And I'm a Brit originally, so I understand the whole, Brit in Australia thing. There's a thing in Australia where we don't like the word sales. We culturally kind of recoil from anything to do with sales. And I try and teach people all the time, just don't think of it as sales. Think of it as relationship building. We're very good at building relationship with candidates. We're much better at that naturally. We tend to do that much more naturally. Treat it the same way with your clients. You have to genuinely think that you're giving them value. You're not chasing them down and trying to con them into giving you a job. You're actually trying to work out what is their acute need, what is their problem that you're trying to solve. You're not going to get that from one phone call and trying to force a candidate and wedge somebody in there that they don't need. You have to actually build a relationship with them, understand their business. That's as much for temp as it is for perm. People make the mistake of thinking temp is transactional. Temp is very much about understanding their business, very much understanding the peaks and the troughs and the strategies and where it's going. Perm is very much about understanding the nuances and the structure and the strategy, so you can really partner with them. And those relationships are not built in one phone call. And that takes time, and you have to believe in yourself and back yourself to build those relationships. But that's a different skill set. So you really have to go out and actually build those relationships. And that takes a level of nuance and skill that you have to work at. But do it because they're the best skills you can learn. And you will be a much, much better career recruiter, and you'll do much better in the long term over your career if you learn those skills now. It might feel hard, but nothing worthwhile was done without going through the hard patch of it. So it will be well worth it in the long run.
Well, recruitment is hard. That's the thing, isn't it? Because I normally say it's 10 jobs in one, but I put a post out a couple of weeks ago saying, well, actually, I wrote this blog 10 years ago. So what am I missing? We probably added another 5 jobs onto it. So it's 15 jobs in one. No wonder it's hard. Each element you can do, but it's that combination of doing everything together. And yes, field sales rep and tele rep and customer service clerk are all part of it. So one thing that I use to help when I'm training business development or developing relationships is, well, how do you feel when you speak to a candidate and you're going to be selling a job to a candidate because you've got a job for them? And they're like, well, I'm not really selling. And I'm like, no, you are. So you're talking to the candidate. Why is it different when you're talking to the client? And usually there's that light bulb moment. They're just people and you've got something that they might want. So you just have to change the mindset around what you're doing there.
Couldn't agree more, Angela. Everybody can sell. 3-year-olds sell better than anyone I've ever met, right? They can convince you to do anything. Everyone can sell when they believe in what they're selling. So you've just got to help yourself understand what it is that you're selling. Stop trying to think about you're trying to convince them to do something they don't want, and actually think about how are you helping them to get their business to where you need it to be.
And this is where I think 2022 actually helped us. It's a bit like the I'm sure it was the same where over there that the teachers in 2020, they went up a few rungs in our estimation because everyone was having to homeschool and realizing I've only got 1 or 2 or 3 kids. They've got 30 in a room. How do they do this? And of course, 2022 was very similar for recruiters, where you've got a lot of companies that potentially would normally have tried to do it themselves and were really struggling and realizing how difficult it was to find good staff. So we're on a high at the moment. Well, certainly as high as we've been. I started in the 80s, so we didn't have a great reputation then, and we still get tarred a few times with a dodgy brush. So therefore, let's take advantage of this. It's a profession, it's a skill that we have, and it's not easy. And hard work is a key part of it, isn't it? Making sure that you stick it out through those tough times. Perseverance is a top competency we've found in recruiters, because if you can stick it out and go through the difficult bits, like you say, having that competency of being able to do business development, to build relationships, it's not just your work, it's everything else in life. It will impact on you as well. Erin, would you like to dive in on this?
Yeah, look, I think, sure, there is an element of sales, but I think that we can bring recruitment back to people at every turn. So I think in terms of really understanding your candidates and what they actually really want in their life and their work, you're not going to get that in the initial surface answers. You really need to take the time to get to know people and to be a great listener on both the candidate and the client side, and have that innate curiosity about businesses. That's one of the things I love about recruitment, is just learning so much about different businesses and different people. So I think if that's something you're passionate about, it's not so much about selling something, to a candidate or selling something to a client. It's actually getting excited that you've got this amazing person that you want to tell certain employers about, or you've got this amazing business that you want to find a great fit for because people are going to love working there. And then I think just working in this type of market, it's really easy in the world of information overload that we come into our week and it can be just really overwhelming. I know we have so many tools and resources at People to People that you can pick from. You actually really have to be strategic and deliberate about what you use and what you ignore and what you don't use. And the reason I say that is because you can be very busy in recruitment but not get to where you want to be. And you get to the end of the week and you think, gosh, it was like a whirlwind, but did I actually achieve what I wanted? So I think just coming into the week with a really clear plan around who you want to be speaking with and why, about who or about which companies, and then doing yourself a service and really sticking to that throughout the week. That's going to serve you really well in this market. And I think, to Nina's point, it's so exciting to see this emergence of recruitment skills coming back to the fore. We were so transactional in 22 and the start of 23. There's just so much going on. So it's lovely to be able to start to look at, having more retained work, much more exclusivity, getting out and seeing the client, offering those value adds again, giving them data and talking through and really understanding how that impacts their businesses. it creates that much higher quality relationship, which means you can advocate better for their business. It means that you're going to be doing better work with them, more work with them, and the work that you are doing is much more efficient and everybody's happier. You, the client, the candidate. So I actually love this type of market. Sure, I'd love a little bit more positive economic news, but it does allow us as recruiters to get much closer to that full skill set.
I was just going to add, sorry, Angela, we should have warned you if Erin and I get together, this is what would happen. You might need to cut us off. But for your people that are listening that are in the talent acquisition space rather than in the recruitment agency space, the other piece to add to this is that when we talk about clients, then your internal clients are just as important in this space. So you're still, for want of a better word, selling the consulting, you're still having to use those skills with them. And even in a softening market, whilst there might be more candidates, 4.1% unemployment is still very low unemployment. So good candidates are still very hard to find. So this market is still a tough market. It's actually a really challenging market because there are less jobs, but more candidates, and that actually makes it very tricky. So this is where refining your recruitment skills and your talent acquisition skills, this is the kind of market that really makes you a great recruiter, whether it's as a talent acquisition specialist, an internal recruiter, or an agency recruiter. These are the kind of markets that really can set up your career for the long term. So this is why I say it's exciting. It's hard, but it's exciting. So see it as an opportunity.
Yeah, you're definitely going to get some challenges. You're going to get opportunity to learn. And actually, in the recruiting team, we work with in-house TA as well as agency. Yesterday, I was working with 19 recruiters from Bupa, who is sort of probably the largest healthcare company here in the UK, up in Manchester. They have the same problems with their hiring managers. They still have to sell to them. And one lady even said, sometimes I have to remind them, I'm not an agency, I'm internal, I'm with you. Because they really have to work hard to get them on board. And that's what we were working on, because, how to manage the hiring managers. They have the same issues. It's exactly the same. They've got to build those relationships. Well, all of that, you're doing brilliantly, ladies, because this is now linking to the next one, all around those relationships. So, Denise, I'm going to focus you. So generally then, what is the relationship like between recruitment agencies and companies in Oceania as a whole? So all of these wonderful islands. I did mention the Cook Islands yesterday because they're part of it. And one of the ladies at Bupa, she sort of twitched as I said the Cook Islands. And then in the break, she came to me, she goes, I can't believe you mentioned that. Whenever I say it, no one ever knows where it is or what it is. My dad was born there and I got married there. So there's this lady in Manchester yesterday, pouring with rain, talking about the Cook Islands. So anyway, back to you. Segue. Where you go, Denise? What is this relationship like?
Yeah, look, it's I won't say love and hate, because I feel like love and hate is a very strong word for both sides. But just speaking of my experience, having been both internal as well as on the agency side, I feel like it's a like and dislike. If we look at from a global sort of Oceania perspective, where we've got companies like Hayes, Randstad, Robert Walters, let's face it, they've got a whole pool of candidates where they provide those candidates with opportunities across the board. Agencies work in every sector, so their reach is massive. They've always got something good going for them. On the flip side of that, I also feel like specialized agencies are where the sweet spot is. Having spoken to quite a few of my friends, and obviously no disrespect or offense to any of the agencies over here either, is that everybody's struggling at the moment to work with clients, because everybody's going lean. People are getting rid of their talent teams at the moment. What I've seen in my experience, and obviously in this region, is it can absolutely be a win-win. If you go to an agency, if you know how to engage with agencies, that's the first thing. If you know how to engage with agencies the proper way, and if agencies don't follow protocol to get onto a panel, as an example where they're sort of sending unsolicited resumes to hiring managers, you're absolutely spoiling the relationships. And I think we've all been in situations where that's happened, right? Sorry, I'm just going off a little tangent over here where I've just lost my thought process. Yeah. So, and look, let's face it, with agencies, they've got things that sometimes smaller businesses don't have. They've got the relationships, they've been consistent, and this is what Nina and all were talking about, is that consistency of those relationships. They've got market share of candidates, they have market knowledge, they have relationships built and maintained, they've got the consistency that comes with it, and obviously whether they provide candidates and those candidates get hired. What I've seen in this is that it can turn to crap pretty quick, in my experience, if it's not honored properly. So that's just in a nutshell from what I've seen. And obviously, I have moved away from agency side. I've seen that what's really worked so far with the companies that I've worked in internally is more going out to specialized agencies and working with them because they have an area. What companies do a disservice to agencies is when they go out to agencies and give one role to 4 different agencies. And this is where I feel like agencies can actually say no, but they don't. And I'd love for the other ladies to also jump in, because I feel like they'll probably have a lot more use cases or some more experiences around this area as well.
Yep, Erin, I can see you're ready to go.
Oh, look, Denise, I'm married to an internal talent acquisition manager, so I get both sides of the conversation, which is lovely. But look, I think it always has to be a partnership, and that's where getting out and having that FaceTime, I think, is absolutely critical. It's really difficult to treat either side badly if you have that really good relationship and if you have good listening. And I think the 2 most important qualities of any recruiter are empathy and listening. Every time it's not talking, it's listening. And so I think that if you've got that strong relationship with your client and there's a mutual level of respect and everyone's listening to each other's needs, then we can have a good working relationship. And I think that recruiters should have that confidence, like you say, Denise, to push back and say no if they're actually being put in a commercial arrangement where they can't deliver good service. I do believe that like attracts like, and if you have quality in your client base and quality in your candidate pool, you will get more referrals like that. You will get more opportunities like that. If you take on an opportunity that, if it is really, really low margin or it's very low commitment and you're competing against other agencies, you will end up with more work like that and you won't make yourself available to do the really good stuff. I know Nina and I are very passionate about the retained approach in the perm world, and I certainly believe you can do it on the temp side as well with certain projects. So, that's not always possible. Big corporates, they don't typically do a lot of retained work, and that's the reality. And so it's just making sure, though, that you can build up to a level of exclusivity with those relationships so that everyone has clear communication, mutual respect, and that creates efficiency for both sides.
Yeah. And Erin, thanks so much for that. And I've also seen what sometimes happens, and obviously this is also having a lot of conversations within the community around certain bad behaviors that do come out where they're trying to bypass the recruiter in the process. And then they go straight to like hiring managers. And obviously they're trying to create that connection through the hiring manager. But I think where certain behaviors sort of come in is that, there is already a process that needs to be followed. And this typically happens more at enterprise level when there's just too many vendors sort of involved in the process. And like when I worked at ANZ Bank, we saw this all the time. And what it did was, instead of us being more open to having more sort of vendors onto the panel, we actually started to be a lot more closed off to that sort of behavior. And we also had to tell our hiring managers, please do not entertain this, because that's not the way to do it. They're bypassing what the regulations and the laws are, or whatever the process is in the back end. And hence what I was saying is like, sometimes a lot of companies or smaller companies will straight out go to like a specialized in finance, as an example, because that's what they know, that's what they're good at. They know they're just going to get exactly what they want versus going to a much bigger sort of an agency, if that makes sense. And Angela, correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm kind of deviating a bit more from the topic here.
No, definitely. And it's interesting to hear you say around when they've got maybe 4 agencies working on a role, for agencies to walk away. If you're number 4, why are you even contemplating it? 3 others have already gone out to the market and probably ruined it for your potential candidates anyway. So unless you are a real specialist and you know of a lot of passive candidates that they wouldn't have identified, then you're on a hiding to nothing. So you're just going to ruin your reputation. Your candidates aren't going to be happy. They're not necessarily going to get the interviews. Your client's going to think that you can't do it. So why do that? Yeah, stand up for yourself. We need to be more assertive in that process and saying what works. How does this process work for you? So do some analysis on your fill rates. So what is it? But what is it when you're the sole agency? What is it when you're with 2? And if you've got 3s and 4s, work those out as well. And you'll see that go off a cliff naturally anyway, because there's more people in the mix. So that hopefully will give you the confidence to say, actually, I've got a 6% chance of filling this. If there's 4 agencies, yeah, let's move on to one that's going to be sole agency or just with 2 of them. Let's go with that instead.
Can I add one comment, Angela?
You can, definitely.
So I think one of the challenges, and thank you, Denise and Erin, I couldn't agree more. It's almost a kind of a discussion that often goes in cycles between kind of what goes from internal, then goes back to being outsourced to agency, then back to internal, as companies tend to go through a cycle themselves in terms of their volumes of recruit, their own economic cycles with what's going on internally. But I think there's also the challenge between what sits sometimes with procurement in companies and what sits within HR in companies that comes into play. And I think that relationship piece is really important at every level. And I've not done a huge amount of internal, but I have done some internal. So I've experienced it myself, and I've run an internal function. I did it for a year. It doesn't suit me, but I take my hat off to all of those that do it and do it well, because it requires a certain amount of skills as well to do it well. I think one of the challenges for the specialist companies, which you call out, Denise, quite rightly, are the ones that often are needed to support internal functions to do it well. One of the challenges that we need to work on improving, and I don't have the answer, but I just think it's worth calling out for this discussion, is for the specialist company recruitment agencies to add value to panels. And having been in those situations myself, the reason that they like to have the conversations with the hiring manager is that's where where you can really understand the value of the role, and you can really maybe get to the grit of why it's not been working so far. And you know yourselves in internal roles, because I've experienced it myself, the more chains there are in the link, the more likely that we are to have misunderstandings and miscommunications and breakdowns, and therefore not get the right person in the role. And the more people there are involved in a process, the more complex it gets. And the more nuanced it gets, and the more difficult it becomes to get it right. So this is not a simple thing to get right. And then when you're asking a specialist firm that's used to charging specialist fees to, private companies where they're not on a panel, it becomes a very difficult and complex negotiation, which is why this is a challenging construct to work through. So I'm just calling that out because it is hard, right? It's a hard thing.
It is.
Yeah, we need to make sure that there's thought behind it, there's business acumen behind it, there's market knowledge behind it, and then you can make the call. You can make it a lot easier, and you will be confident in that you've made the right decision as well. So let's get out there, and this is one of those things to help people to understand that, and maybe to give them permission to say, actually, no, this isn't going to work. But also, I mean, Denise, I saw that you didn't put your podcast in there, so I've done it for you because I found it under the best TA podcast to add to your playlist. So click on that link there in the chat. I'll stick that in LinkedIn as well, because there's some fantastic ones on there and lots that I know, but there's a couple I don't. So I will be going to have a listen to them. I love a podcast. Right. Next question then. We're getting Nicole back. Let's focus you on the main stage. So question 6 then. What are you seeing unfold in the markets and current economic environments from a recruitment agency perspective? So certainly in the Oceania regions, what's happening?
Oh, look, I think it actually goes back to what all the ladies were saying earlier, really, is that the agencies that create those partnerships and they truly have a vested interest in their clients' success through good recruitment practices, they're the ones that are thriving. So it's interesting when you talk to the people who mention that they're struggling at the moment and finding it harder. Potentially they're the ones that haven't built those solid foundations and taken that partnership approach. So I think it goes back to the question a question or two ago, actually. It's so important we're all people. It doesn't matter whether you're a job seeker or you're a hiring manager or the CEO of a company. You always want to make sure, and you'd prefer to do business with people that you like. So, and you prefer to do business with people who have a vested interest in your success and making sure that the outcomes are good. So I think out of all of this, the agencies that are being more successful and are thriving at the moment are the ones that do that well. We are seeing across the board, actually, the agencies that started up during COVID, when it was like a heyday of opportunity, and we see in different economic sort of waves, people come and they go, and recruitment agencies start up and they make a heap of money, and then or they do extremely well, and then all of a sudden they're on struggle street and they're reducing their business down or just disappearing altogether. So there always is a bit of a restructure that happens there, and then that opens up great opportunities again for those ones that have stayed solid to pick up the opportunities that have been left by the ones that have sort of wrecked it. And it also goes back unfortunately, into Denise's point. It's a small minority wreck it for the majority of recruiters, where they're going in just promising the world and then just blowing it up in people's faces and over promising and under delivering, that unfortunately gives recruitment sometimes a tarnished name, which it really shouldn't, because they add so much value, recruitment agencies, to especially what I'm seeing is at the moment, especially over the last sort of 3 months, so many people are leaving very big agencies where they've been working so hard and they've built up these amazing relationships, and they may not be getting a great work-life situation where they are. They're starting up very bespoke agencies uniquely themselves, which has been interesting to see. There's been quite a lot of that. I will pause. There's a couple of other points in here, but I'm sure Erin, Nina, Denise, Angela, there might be something that you want to add to that particular piece.
I think Erin's unmuted. Erin, you got something to add?
Oh, I am unmuted. I'm too afraid to mute it, Nina, if I'm honest.
That's great.
But look, I think recruitment agencies everywhere need to think about the environment that they provide for their team, and very much comes back to the book you've written, Nina. I'll give you a little plug there, Meaningful Work, around just making sure that you're aware of the purpose that people are looking for in their work. Because we've got different generations coming through, and they're looking for that purpose in their work, being able to have an impact. And we can have such a big impact in recruitment, where we are working with people on one of the biggest decisions in their lives, that next job. It's up there with buying a house, choosing a partner. It's one of those big decisions. So we can have an impact on safe working conditions, better pay, equal pay, anti-discrimination. There's so many things that we can impact. And when employers in the recruitment space understand that and really amplify it and align their values with their employee values, that can make a huge difference to not only attraction and retention, but it makes for a great environment. So I know for us, we've made a big push to we're carbon neutral. We donate to charities monthly. I won't go on and on about people to people, but there's so many things that we do to really try and align with our team's values and what they're looking for. And I'll just shamelessly, if I can, Angela, just plug for recruiters on here, the RCSA's Next Gen Collective, which is a group of 0 to 5 year recruiters that do get together quarterly. And I've dropped you the link on LinkedIn, Angela, if you can pop that in for me. And also, I'm going to be very shameless, but also plug my book, which is called Get the Job You Really Want. Should read it in conjunction with Nina's Meaningful Work, because it can really help you to understand what your candidates might want and what they're looking for and how to guide them through that process. And indeed, look at your own career as well and what's best for you.
They're all in there. We've got your book link, but thank you, Nina. I obviously picked the UK one. I've just realised. So you've got the Australian one in there, and the Next Gen Collective, you said, yes. So can you just tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, thanks, Angela. So I'm the Next Gen Board Director for RCSA, and what we really want to do is support recruiters in that 0 to 5 year space to really thrive and really enjoy their career. And we're also supporting employers to provide a better environment. We know there's been a lot of turnover in the past, and we don't want that for people coming into the industry. We want them to be supported with great training and development and an environment where they can thrive. So creating that connection between each other so they can share their challenges and their successes. We've got a range of events that we are running around the country, and a lot of online resources as well. And we meet quarterly too online. So you can find all the details on that link on the RCSA website. And we've got the next one coming up. I think it's actually next Friday from memory. So have a look, jump on events. And if you're an RCSA member, you can join us. And if not, you can certainly inquire and come on board.
Fantastic. Nice. Thank you for that. I've noticed we've suddenly had a plethora of questions come through on the questions bit. So I'm going to dive into a couple of those if that's okay. So what's the podcast? It's Crafty Saucer, is that right? And I see there's a couple of comments on there. So thank you for Denise. That's your podcast, and it is on that link of the best TA ones on there. We've also got what key differences do you notice when sourcing talent in Oceania compared to other geographies? So what makes it unique, and what's something people may not know? So I'm going to bring everyone up on that, and if you want to dive in, just unmute and go for it.
The biggest thing that got me when I first moved here was just how happy people are to meet for coffees and things without necessarily actually wanting to do business with you. So I wasted a huge amount of time meeting people that didn't actually want to do business with me, or weren't necessarily actively looking to change jobs yet. I didn't realize that people are quite happy just to meet up for the fun of meeting up. It took me quite a long time to work out how to do a proper phone screen and a proper kind of client phone screen, because I used to go on meetings that were just a complete waste of time for both candidates and clients before I realized how to do that.
Good point. Good point. Any
Nina,
others?
I was just going to say, Nina, who wouldn't want to do business with you? Yeah, look, I think, we've got a UK office and a New Zealand office, and I think what we found in the UK is, it is a much more challenging market to crack, and you really do have to have something of value to offer. And I think for us, that's been our comprehensive market reports and salary guides. We've managed to finally sort of crack through nicely that way, with a lot of requests for that type of data, and that just gets you that face time. But I think in Australia, Nina's right. You can people are happy to meet with you, but you have to be very discerning about asking the right questions. You can have all the visits in the world and client meetings and prospect meetings, but it's really asking the right questions around, do they use agencies? How do they use agencies? What are their toughest to fill roles? If you had someone like that, would they want to hear about them? Asking permission for that first role. And I think for a lot of recruiters, the challenge is around confidence. And I would just say to anyone listening that suffers from a bit of a lack of confidence, or you don't feel like you want to get out there or pick up the phone, just know that you've probably done more interviews in your first 100 days in recruitment than most hiring managers that you will ever meet. And that is the truth in your niche. So you will know that niche better than probably anyone you're going to meet, other than maybe talent acquisition, internal talent teams, who also will have done a lot of interviewing. But just have that confidence that from that niche knowledge around your vertical, you've got a lot of information and data that you can share that's valuable to companies. And then, of course, if you're listening well to what are the in-demand areas, what are the types of roles that companies do actually want help with and they do actually struggle with, and you build your candidate pools in those areas and you connect with candidates and nurture candidates in those areas, then you're going to be very successful with what you do.
Well, halfway through that, if you notice, I put up the how can recruiters in today's market stand out, because all of what we were saying was how they can stand out. And because we are a little short of time now, I thought, actually, that's perfect. And there's lots in there today that we've covered. I've got a yes, no answer, so we might as well go with that. Who can answer whether 2024 is the year of the fractional recruitment stroke sourcing function? ANZ, given market shifts. Denise, is that you?
Yeah, I'm more than happy to answer, because I do heaps of fractional. It's definitely become a thing, and it's only going to become a thing. In fact, just on one of the last two questions, what I wanted to say was that there's more and more recruiters going out and doing their own thing, and fractional is becoming part and parcel of that. And what that means is there's actually a lot more opportunity for small consultancies and agencies to actually partner together and build an ecosystem. So it's not like we're stepping over each other. We're actually collaborating and forming partnerships on the basis of making sure that there's enough coverage from all sides, whether that's fractional, whether that's contingency, whether that's retained or project-based, or whatever that looks like. In fact, there's a podcast episode just around fractional, because when you look at fractional as itself, it's always been at exec level. It's always been for marketing people. It's always been for sales people. We haven't had a lot for talent acquisition, and now it's actually becoming the norm around fractional. So you're seeing more, so you're seeing a lot more recruiters go in and start doing their own thing, even as people in the US are offering now more like coordination, task management on fractional basis. It's becoming a lot more popular. And I think it's actually going to gain a lot more popularity as people go out and start doing their own things.
Yeah, it's the new gig economy, isn't it? It's again, it just keeps coming around. We just keep updating. That's what I love about the recruitment industry. We're always just, okay, well, how can we do it slightly different? And I think COVID helped us all to appreciate we can do things differently, and that's picking up from there. Right, last one. I think this might be more you, Nicole. So AI in recruiting keeps coming back to removing administrative tasks and workload, but do we see it as mainly integrating with diaries and note management, or will AI lead to entire attraction programs being automated? Entire attraction programs being automated. What do we think, Nicole?
Yeah, so I think this is probably a question for everyone, because they're probably using AI differently. I am definitely seeing it from a technology standpoint now. Once again, you still need to put the human element in it. It's only going to do so much. You need to check what you're doing and make sure you humanize it is so important. I'll talk about it from a getting your brand found online perspective. AI can do your SEO for you now, all the meta titles of your alt tags for your images, all the hard labor from a technology, recruitment, or careers site perspective. It can write you great blogs to attract relevant people to your brand. So for agencies, that's how do you attract employers and how do you attract relevant job seekers? Showcasing talent you might have available that's highly relevant to an employer is a great way for them to potentially be interested in you as a recruiter. Showing people you might have placed into roles or the job roles you've filled is another way to wave a flag and get employer brands thinking about, oh, maybe I better call this agency. So we're seeing AI write a lot of content, do a lot of the menial tasks from a front-facing perspective. But I'm sure the team here has seen a lot from an AI writing a perspective where they're dealing with candidates and clients as well.
Definitely.
Actually, if you look at Auto AI and MetaView, they're already doing all of this around interview, note management, etc. But when you look at, I'll give you a classic example of what EPAM systems are doing here in Australia. So they've actually taken talent acquisition as a use case, and they've actually built their own AI. And as an example, if you put in a job requisition, it will match all the keywords of candidates that are already in your system and spit out candidates to you. So they're not getting rid of their sourcing team, but what they're doing is they're automating some of those tasks so the sources can actually work on things that are probably more important instead of going through the database and sifting through resumes. So this is already happening. Now, is it going to do an entire attraction program? I think it's definitely going to help, but it's not going to take it over just yet. Like to Nicole's point, there still has to be that human connection, human element. And we've got to get it right. We've got to get onto this AI bandwagon. We've got to learn pretty quick, because otherwise we're going to get left behind with the pace that it's evolving. I mean, if you'll go to, there's an AI for that.com, every day there's like thousands of different AIs in different sectors and categories coming out, and it's just too hard to keep up with.
Well, one thing to help you keep up with it, we're running a webinar every quarter on what's new, what's happening, called Revolutionizing Recruitment Practices, which is all about AI and using AI and automation for the greater good. It's all the good stuff, not the bad stuff. So I've put that link in there for everyone as well to sign up. Next one, I think, is early August. Ladies, thank you so much, especially to those that were feeling a little under the weather. He did great. Loved that. So many key points on there. I'll be going back through, downloading it, put it in the course, putting all those links and that information for people to catch up on that. And do reach out to the ladies if you have further questions and there's more information that you would like on these topics. So that's our Oceania special finished. Thank you so much. I think
Thanks,
3 out of the 5 of us are going to bed. So,
thanks for joining so early in the morning, Angela.
Looks like 4.
The sun is up. I now know what time sunrise is. I don't normally. I am not a morning person. Wonderful. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you all soon.
Thanks, Angela.
Thank you, everyone.
See you soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
See
you.
you. Bye.
Bye.